was the World Bank manager of the River Blindness Program for Africa, and worked on mobilizing funds for this program. The Kuwait Fund was an original donor to this program back in 1974. The river blindness is a horrible disease which is endemic in much of sub-Saharan Africa. There are about 150 million people at risk of this disease. The manifestations of the disease are horrible itching, skin disfigurement, and blindness. It results from a parasite which is transmitted from a black fly that fills up the body and causes the itching, the skin disfigurement, and eventually blindness. The average onset of blindness is 30 years of age. The Kuwait Fund, as I said, was an original donor. It's contributed about $20 million to this program. The program has been extremely successful in eliminating the disease in most of West Africa, and it has brought the disease down to tolerable levels in the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. The goal is to eliminate the disease throughout all of sub-Saharan Africa, and it's expected that this will happen sometime between 2020 and 2025. The Kuwait Fund continues to this day to be an important donor. It's been a steadfast donor nearly 45 years now, which is remarkable in the commitment of the fund to this successful program. It's important to note that the disease impacts the poorest of the poor, the absolute poor, living in remote rural areas in the poorest countries of Africa. They themselves would have no way of controlling this disease. They couldn't afford to buy the drug, which is now given free by a pharmaceutical company, Merck and Company, but it still costs money to get the drug out to the population. The drug is delivered through the communities. A community distributor in the individual community distributes the drug to those infected with the disease. And the program has been remarkably successful. And as a result, the food production and other agricultural production is increasing in these parts of Africa because people could not live in the areas where the disease was endemic. They had to abandon the areas near rivers where the land was the best for agricultural production. Now they're streaming back into those areas and are producing food and other agricultural production. Hence, what's occurring is an increase in improvements in rural development in those areas that had been abandoned. Yes, the disease river blindness is known as a neglected tropical disease. It has been neglected over decades for the reason that the people who have it live in the most remote areas. Because this multi-donor effort has been successful in controlling river blindness by delivering the drug through the communities, that drug distribution network can now be used for other neglected tropical diseases. The other neglected tropical diseases which can now be treated include elephantiasis, which is a swelling of the limbs, schistosomiasis, a parasite which infects the intestines, trachoma, which is the largest cause of blindness in Africa, and the intestinal worms. Now, the same drug, which is effective against river blindness, also works against elephantiasis and works against the intestinal worms. So that we're now beginning to treat other neglected tropical diseases in these areas as a result of the river blindness, the success of the river blindness program. And the hopes now are that we will be able to eliminate all of the major neglected tropical diseases in sub-Saharan Africa in the next 10, 20 years. And that will be a remarkable achievement, which was unthought of 40 years ago, before this program began. So there's a lot of credit due to the Kuwait Fund and the other donors for having made this program possible. And now the poorest of the poor are no longer suffering the way that they once were.